Welcome into the Sports Objective, the unofficial podcast of the Pirates. We have tonight two great guests. In fact, Bubba, very excited to Bubba Rosenbaum is with us tonight. A friend I've known. I was thinking Morgan had to do the math and carried the ones and that and all that, but I've known Morgan Ahlers since 1996. He's, of course, the PA voice of the basketball team and, of course, the football team for the Pirates. Morgan, welcome in.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you having me.
I was telling Bubba last night we needed to have him drink some Captain Morgan for Captain Morgan right here on the show.
Who says I'm not right now?
Oh, okay. So glad to have you on. I've told the guys how great you are for many years working with you. I was 23 when I first started working with you a long, long time ago. You and Brian Bailey are awesome. And I still joke about, we'll talk a little bit about this in your career and current stuff, but with the Budweiser Game Day Countdown, I never forget that. I guess it was that deck built out the traffic area there, right behind the stadium fort.
Yeah.
Whatever game day, and then the fact that you and Brian always used to ask for food on the air, and man, they used to bring those plates. I'll never forget those men that would bring those plates of ribs, and it looked like the paper plate was getting ready to just collapse because it was so many great ribs on there, man.
Yeah, they used to treat us really well. I can remember one time they brought grilled antelope. I've never had antelope before, and that was one thing that really stuck out. And I was like, it wasn't bad, but antelope sausage for breakfast. So it was fun. We had a good time.
No doubt. I was going to ask you the very fact of your thoughts on this season. Obviously, we're talking your career too, but I know a lot of people have that on their mind. It's like the water cooler when people know how much I love the Pirates at work, and people are stopping me like I know what's going on and I don't. What's going on as far as will we have a season? Will we have a season? Do you think we'll have a season?
I hope so. I think the AAC and I think East Carolina and the schools in the AAC are going to do everything they can to get the season in. I know the SEC feels the same way. The ACC seems to feel the same way. It's, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, they postponed their season until January, I believe it was, maybe February. But those two conferences, from everything I read and everything that I heard, were sort of joined at the hip anyway, going back to the Rose Bowl days of way back when. And, the Big Ten or Big 12 rather, looks like they're going to play. So now there's four coaches, 14 conferences rather, not coaches, but conferences that are saying yes along with the AAC. So now we're one of the Power Five. I don't care what anybody says. Power Five, baby.
That's right. And that was one of the reasons I was telling the guys off there, having talked about on the air, why not when you have the likes of East Carolina and a lot of good American schools, this is our time to shine. We are definitely, I believe, a power league. If you look at the amount of money we're getting, you look at a great commissioner, the great teams, the great coaches, players, the level of competition, etc. We're definitely a power league. We're like on that bubble where we're just like outside looking in, and we're looking for the shot. Here's our shot. I mean, we are a power league, in my opinion.
Well, you look at with the Big Ten going out, the Pac-12 going out, there's going to be a lot of TV time that needs to be filled. And when you're looking at the games, the Big Ten game of the week or the Pac-12 game of the week, those time slots are still going to be filled by somebody. And, the American now steps up to the plate where we've got some pretty good teams and got some really good matchups throughout the season. And I think we're going to take advantage of that. And from a national standpoint, people are going to be able to see what the American can really do.
And we have a great product. I'm very happy. I know your opinion on this, but I'll ask you anyway. I'm very happy with Coach Mike Houston and the staff. I know that you have a little more insight than we do, but I've been really impressed with him. I'm really impressed with the program. The practices we obviously can't go out there right now, but the practices look more like an old school practice. Now, there are a lot of things. Recruiting has been amazing. I want to get your take on Coach Houston and his staff.
I think they've done a great job coming in here. They had to set their tempo. They had to set their tone and their expectations. And I think now the players that you have wearing the purple and gold have all bought in. I mean, these guys, the people that didn't, for whatever reason, didn't want to be here or maybe felt they were better served somewhere else, good for them. You have to do what's best for you. But the players that are here now have really bought into his philosophy, his style of play. And I think that you're going to see more and more, as the season goes on, what that style is. And I think Coach Houston's adjusted a little bit in his staff. He's always been a running football coach, and at James Madison, they threw the ball more than he probably ever has in his career. And that shows the good sign of adjusting to your talent, but at the same time still commanding the respect that you're of that talent.
And Morgan, with one thing, and not just saying it because you're on the podcast, I think that the offense is going to score a lot of points this year. And I think I'm a guy that's half full as far as the glass half full, but I believe we can have a season. We might sneak up on a few people that last year we were so close at Cincinnati, the SMU game, those two games in particular. We're so close. Maybe a play goes differently. We could, pull out a victory. We scored a ton of points at SMU, but I think we could potentially see a lot of video game numbers this year. It'll be the question will be is how much improved will the defense be if you can score enough 28, 30 some points a game, then you might have a shot to win, right?
Oh, without a doubt. And I think this offense showed last year what it's capable of. And when you go look back, they lost a couple of linemen. They lost DeAndre Ferrier, wide receiver, and he's really the only guy they lost last year from a skill set. In the skill position standpoint, they brought in some really good players. Just about the whole receiving corps back. You brought in Chase Hayden from Arkansas to help bolster that running game. Raji Harris, and of course you got Darius Penix in the backfield. On the line, everybody talks about the offensive line, how good they'll be. I think you got one of the best offensive line coaches in the country in Steve Shankweiler.
No doubt about that.
He's there, and he always gets the most out of the talent that he has. And you've got Avery Jones, who was one of the top offensive tackles in the country, offensive lineman coming out of high school. You've got, I think his name is Justin Chase. I believe that's his name, young man. No, is that it? Justin somebody from State. I think it's Justin Chase. I'm not sure. But, came from NC State, talking to some folks up there that I know. They were really high on him. The new offensive line coach came in. They decided to go with the youth movement, and he just didn't have a spot to go this year, and he wants to play. And he's going to play a lot for East Carolina. And then the Pirates have got some really good young offensive linemen. So offensively, not only this year, but look ahead till next year. You don't lose, but you lose Dante Smith at left tackle. That's it. You don't lose anybody else. So not trying to look ahead, but if they can continue to build upon what they did at the end of last year, take that into this year, and then, the sky's the limit. I think the program will be on the footing that everybody wants it to be.
And Morgan, something I know you were talking to Clip last week on Pirate Radio, enjoyed the interview last week. The very fact that these kids have 3 years, and I was talking about that last year, and I've talked about some this year. Last year, we were in the top 20, one of the youngest teams in the country. And you add to your very point, you add to 2021, they're going to be one of the oldest teams in the country. And they have not only the talent, but the experience being together and having all those games under their belt.
Yeah, that's it's exciting. We talked about it a couple of years ago. You and I were talking that this team, everybody wants this program to succeed. And there are people out there for whatever reason that just they're just want to be down in the dumps when something goes wrong. The sky's falling. Well, the sky's not falling, and this is a team that I think has built upon itself from last year. I've had a chance to watch these guys a lot this summer, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be very pleasantly surprised at what they see offensively and defensively. Blake Harrell's coming in with a bunch of guys that his style is an attacking style, a multiple style of defense, and if the Pirates offense can continue to mature and avoid some of the mistakes that happened late in the season that cost us a few games, if the maturity factor will eliminate a lot of those, the defense can get 20-25% better this year than it was last year. There's going to be some W's in the win column.
No doubt. And then you add the fact that I understand New Mexico State canceled their season. So we have 76 teams right now still playing in college football, and there's 84 slots for the bowls. I don't know if there'll be bowls. But I'm just thinking that if there's ever been a perfect thing for the Pirates as far as we could just win, I don't know if they've come out. I haven't heard anything on how many wins. If we have 10 games, does that mean we only have to win 5 or half the games? I don't know, but I really believe that we've got a good shot to make a bowl this year. Maybe I'm overconfident, but I really do.
I hope so. I think so. I think that the Pirates would really relish that chance to get to a bowl game. Gives you those extra practices in December everybody always talks about. And hopefully, heck, by December, maybe fans can show up. That would be a great thing.
No doubt about it. I tell you one thing, Morgan, no matter when we go to a bowl, I hope that I have some, I don't know, I'll have to have some amazing connections, because it's going to be a really difficult ticket to go to that bowl game whenever we do go. It's going to be, people are so starving and hungry to go to a bowl and to have a winning season. It's going to be a great feeling.
I agree with you 100%. It almost is like the Peach Bowl year. The Pirates hadn't been to a bowl game in so long. The whole town was buzzing with "We Believe" signs and this kind of thing. Granted, we were playing NC State, which made it really big in Atlanta. But and then I can remember over time the Pirates would go to a bowl game. I don't want to go to Mobile. We'll go somewhere else next year. And now we're the old bowl veterans. Well, it's been a while, and hopefully the Pirates can turn that around this year and start making it a tradition to go bowling at the end of the year.
And Morgan, we have some, obviously here, folks, we're on Facebook Live and live on our YouTube channel. We got people that are chiming in, a whole bunch of comments coming in. So Bubba's going to put those up on the screen for us. So people that love Morgan Ahlers. So, and Pirate Alley has a wrestling question for you too that we'll have up there, but it's really funny. But Bubba, take it away so Morgan can see those comments.
Tommy Nason, just our conversation about depth. He said depth is something we've been missing for a long time. And I know I heard Coach Houston, or maybe it was Igo, or both of them say in the last few days, we're at 85 scholarship players for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And then,
one of the things too, and that goes to the sometimes in recruiting, and you guys follow it like I followed it for years, is different coaches have different philosophies in how they want to bring in. Do they bring in the best player available? Do they bring in specific needs? Do you look at a roster and say, okay, a few years back, nothing wrong with Coach Montgomery, but he brought in 5 or 6 transfers. None of them panned out. None of those transfers panned out. This year, you got some grad transfers that come in. I've got a feeling you're going to see most of those guys on the field. It's a totally different transfer group this year than you saw 4 or 5 years ago. And I think that's the kind of decisions that the coaching staff has made to put this program on solid footing.
Bubba, can we get that one as far as Pirate Al asked for Morgan? Is such an important question.
Yeah. Before we do that, we'll add Kyle in here because I know Kyle will want to certainly take part in this this wrestling question.
Okay.
From our
How you doing, Morgan?
Pirate Al says, ask Morgan who wins between Ric Flair and Vader and steel cage for the NWA title.
Woo! The Nature Boy.
Hey, Vader, Ric Flair, Starrcade. What year Starrcade was that? Was that 93?
Early 90s. I can't remember that. Yeah.
Vader and Flair had a classic. Huh? Yeah. Vader and Flair had a classic in Charlotte with Flair's career on the line. Told a great story. Tony Schiavone in the car with Flair on the way to the arena, like his career was really on the line. It was good stuff.
It's back in the days when they actually told stories instead of trying to flip all over the place, when they actually wrestled and had a good time with psychology, as they say.
Absolutely. Instead of flippy-do acrobats.
Yeah.
Yeah, Morgan, one of the things we can always stump Bubba on is he's not a wrestling fan. So whenever we talk wrestling, he's like extremely quiet. So then he's like, he must be a wrestler.
Right now he's picturing Ric Flair wrestling Darth Vader when he hears the name of it.
Morgan, getting
Leon
back
White, Big Van Vader.
Right, and was a hell of a football player.
He played at University of Colorado, I believe, and he's a big guy, and he can move for his size.
Absolutely.
Pirate Al used to be able to move for his size too. Then but anyway, we'll let that one
go. Pirate Al's the best. Richard Allsbrook. Yeah, good.
Richard Allsbrook chiming in. Lost about 311 pounds. He's skinny now. I'm jealous.
I found it all. I found every.
So did I.
Can we get that Tommy Nason comment? There you go.
Tommy Nason says, if you could point to one thing that Holton developed this summer, what would that be?
One of the things that he made the comment to me, they didn't have spring football, and he said, Dad, I sort of looked at it where I could work on my individual things I needed to work on versus a team aspect. So it might have helped him a little bit more from a personal level. He spent some time this year working with several quarterback coaches. He would go to Richmond, go to the Raleigh area. People would meet him up there. Several guys did. Worked on technique, worked on footwork, worked on drills. I had a chance to work with him a little bit this summer, just snapping the ball to him when they were running routes in the afternoon with the receivers. And I was extremely impressed at how he was throwing the football. And you always used to say when you throw a baseball, you can hear, if he's throwing it hard, you could hear the baseball in the air. You could hear the football in the air. And he said, all right, I'm going to throw it this way. Don't move. And I said, what do you mean don't move? He said, don't move. And he threw it right by my ear. I said, I'm going to move. I'm just not moving that way. But I wouldn't want to get hit by it. So.
Morgan, it's probably been talked about already, but unfortunately I missed the first part of the podcast. How was Holton and the other team members you've talked to? How are they taking not knowing for sure that we're going to have a season, and are they just approaching it day by day as if we would be playing, or what?
I think even Coach Houston's addressed it the last couple of days in the media conference that he has on the Zoom conference calls that he's been having. I'm pretty sure they talk about it every day. These coaches and the staff, they've addressed it. There's that part of the season is sort of out of everybody's control. It's over, practicing right now. The coaching staff, the players, John Gilbert has, a lot of the interest as far as handling all that, I would imagine. But the decision whether to play or not, it's out of those guys. They've just got to go out there and practice. And if they can play, they continue to practice. But I personally think these guys are in a better spot practicing and playing than they are if they weren't playing. They'd be, wouldn't have the supervision. They wouldn't have people telling them, you can't do this, you can't do this, let's stay safe, testing every week. They wouldn't have any of that. Dave and I were joking before we went on, there was the big party in Greenville over the weekend of 400 people that they broke up. Well, that was a COVID party, in my opinion, because if that hadn't been COVID, there'd have been 1,000 people there. So actually COVID saved 600 people from going. But think about that. But it's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to get the coronavirus, anything like that. It's the mentality a lot of people have. You do have to, be social distant, be responsible. And these coaches and the teammates are holding each other responsible. And I think that's a big deal right now when you're looking at is there going to be a season or is there not going to be a season? If all of a sudden they start testing and 35-40% of the team has corona, there won't be a season for East Carolina. And these players know that, and they're taking it very seriously.
Morgan, I made a video on our social media page, and it was more in my Kyle from LaGrange character, and talking about the very fact of what you just said about how they're safe for practicing and potentially playing, as long as school's in. I mean, if you're going to be going to class, if you're going to be in dormitories, if you're going to have that opportunity to be tempted to go to parties, then you're much safer in an environment where you have something you have a reason not to get infected. I guess that should just be general. Nobody wants to get infected, but you have an added reason not to do what you're supposed to do versus what you're not supposed to do. And you're right. I mean, unless you're going to completely cancel school and do everything virtually, you're 100% safer with these kids practicing and playing.
I totally agree with that. I think the players are there. I think early on, even some of the players weren't really following the guidelines they needed to follow early on when they first started coming back, because they're used to doing certain things and not wearing a mask or something. It's a whole different lifestyle. And I think the leadership in these older guys around these younger guys is saying, hey, you've got to do this. We want to play. And you've got to do this if we're going to be able to play this year. And last week, I think Coach Houston said they had nobody test positive. And I think he said today they got the results back. I didn't hear the exact number, but he said he was extremely encouraged. So hopefully nobody tested positive today. That says a lot, though, when you're around, 200 or 300 people on an ingoing, because there's not only football over there. You've got basketball. The basketball players are over there. Now you've got students on campus. and you've got other people that you're interacting with. So you've got to hold yourself responsible, and you've got to hold your teammates responsible. Look the guy beside you to the right and to the left and say, hey, let's do this.
Something Jay Sunhalter pointed out, former East Carolina tight end, also that people haven't taken into consideration. You cancel football on these guys and school's still in, they may lose some of their motivation to go to class. Jay said he wouldn't have been too motivated to go to class if he knew he couldn't play football.
Yeah, I feel for the guys in the Big Ten. I heard the Michigan State the other day, they were literally on the practice field when they got the message. They've got a new coach up there, and I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but they pulled him aside. They told him what was going. He blew the whistle, said, everybody in the locker room, we're done.
Yeah, Mel Tucker.
That's it. Yep. And you look at it and you go, these guys train all year long for this. It's not just, hey, we're showing up at the beginning of August to play an August 29th or September 12th game. I mean, these guys during the summer, even though when it was, they had the lockout, they couldn't go over to East Carolina. I'll give you a good example. There was a group of maybe 8 to 10, 12 guys that would get up at 5:30, 5:45 in the morning, go to the track and run at a local middle school for about an hour, run wind sprints, and do the same thing that Big John was trying to get them to do when they was here, would have them doing. Then they come back in the afternoon at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Coach Connor from D.H. Conley, he would come out there and he would run them through drills, and then they'd throw for about an hour. And they did that 4 or 5 days every week, besides lifting, besides doing that. So these guys work hard. And they get after it, and it's the same thing for basketball. It's the same thing for baseball. I mean, it's a full-time job, and that's what I don't think people sometimes understand. They say, "Oh, they got winter workouts. They work out for an hour and a half, and then they're done." They watch film. They watch. They lift. They throw. They run 7-on-7s and do a lot of different things. And people don't really realize how much time is spent into this. And when all of a sudden somebody says, "Okay, you can't do it," I feel bad for the high school football players in the area. They're only going to play a 7-game season coming up. I heard some things talk about the Big Ten, what they're proposing to do, and play a 7-8 game season next year. Then they have off season, they have a playoff, and then they come back next year. That's a lot of football to play. When you're talking about college kids, when you're talking about 30 games in a year, that's a lot of football, or 25 games in a year.
Morgan, one of the things that I'm concerned about is that very fact. We've talked a lot about that. I think there are a lot of people that are making decisions, and I understand and I know how important the safety of your son, obviously a student athlete, but in all the players, but the very fact of having all those games, I think there's maybe good intentions, but a lot of times these decisions are made by people that have never played sports. They don't care about sports, and they're making decisions. And that's one thing that bothers me, is that I do believe that we can have a season, and I'm hoping that we don't have a huge outbreak where all of a sudden the numbers will go up where we can't play football.
I agree. I hope everybody stays safe. I hope the players stay safe. I hope they get to the point where they can put fans in the stands, and they can do that the right way, whether it's walking in with a mask, keeping a mask on till you get to your seat, then you can take it off and separate people in the stands. I hope that happens. Will it happen by September 12th? I don't know. I've got a feeling maybe our first game is played with no fans in the stands, or very minimal fans in the stands. That's just my opinion on it, but I think that's probably where we're heading for game number 1, which I think is a shame, because that game has so much meaning for East Carolina. It has so much, obviously, meaning more for Marshall. We're two programs that are connected. And, the 50th anniversary of that would have been a special moment under normal circumstances to share with each other. And then we go, kick their brains in, but that's okay. I'm good with that. But, hopefully they'll get things worked out and everybody stays safe.
Morgan, can we hold you to that September 12th date that you just said?
Sure, you can hold me to anything. That's fine.
Hey, guys,
go back like 2 or 3 minutes ago. The only person that controls that over there is John Gilbert.
That's right.
I've got no dog in that fight, but that's what everybody's saying. That is just pure speculation, but that's what everybody is sort of saying, that it looks like it's going to be September 12th.
That's what I've heard.
And adding to that, Morgan, I think we're talking out there. I can't remember now. We've been talking for a while now. But to add more, you would be in favor of, I know Kyle came late, so I want to bring this back up. You would be in favor of adding more than just the 10 we have now, 10 games.
I would, just to be on the safe side that if a game gets canceled, then you're down to 9 the way it is right now. You just never know. And I would be favoring, I'd look to add one more, but again, go back to what I said a minute ago. That's a John Gilbert deal. That's not a Morgan Ahlers deal.
Yeah, and interesting, he did say that he may be interested in that in the FCS game, and that looked like it may be off the table, but the Big South and the SoCon made announcements that the Big South and Southern Conference teams, despite the season being moved to the spring, they can go ahead, because it's going to be conference only, they can go ahead and play up to 4 non-conference games this fall if they so choose. So Campbell just scheduled a game at App State, so they got one other game scheduled, so they got 2 more games to schedule. And any other Big South and SoCon teams that want to play can schedule 4 non-conference games this fall. So be a easy way to replace a Norfolk State with a Southern Conference or Big South team.
I think it'd be good. Again, when you train and you start playing games and you start winning games, you got to learn how to win. Not that it's an automatic win, because we've had our share of those in the past. It's putting a game like that on the schedule would look good in the win column. They said we can have 2 wins against an FCS team to go toward bowl eligibility this year.
Yeah, and that's another question that needs to be answered. With only 76 teams playing FBS football as we sit today, if the season happens, how many bowl games will there be? Will they change bowl eligibility if you play 10, 5-5 gets you bowl eligible? I mean, there's so many questions to be answered.
Yeah, I'd say if you got teams that are playing that have decided to play, whether they're FCS, FBS, ESPN, NAACCP, whatever it is, league games. If they're playing football and we don't have enough teams to put a bowl, stick them in a bowl game. They deserve it.
That'll be great. Hey, can we put some more comments up here? You're a popular guy, Morgan. There are a lot of people chiming in. So going all the way back to, I know Alan Powell, Pirate Owl, was putting about spring football will kill the players. No way they can play spring ball and turn around and play 12 to 13 more in the fall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why in spring football, you're limited to, I believe it's 15 or 20, I think maybe 15 days, maybe 20. I'm not sure. But you literally only have probably 3 games during that whole time, and they're controlled games. You look at the Big Ten next spring, if they come out and play 8-10 games next year. Do you think Justin Fields for Ohio State, the quarterback, who's eligible to be in the draft next year, probably will be a top 10 pick in the draft next year, do you think he's going to play spring football?
No, that's going to be a big
There's no way. There's no way he's going to play spring.
Anybody draft eligible is not going to play.
If you've got if you go in there and get hurt, and as it is now, if a player would go out and get injured in October, okay, tears an ACL, he's got a chance to be ready by the end of July, if not the end of June, based on a 9-month recovery window. You go out and tear an ACL in February or March, you're done for the whole next year. You played 2 games of a spring football season. If everybody did it, that's one thing, but everybody's not doing it. And I just think that you're doing a tremendous disservice to the players that are out there. But again, those people that make on a higher pay grade than I am that made that decision not to play.
Morgan, as a father of a player, if the decision was made to move all college football to the spring this year, what would you think would be safe? Let's say we started the last weekend of February and ended in late April and had an 8-game schedule. Would you say then push the following season back to late?
You would have to push it back to October or so and play into January.
Yeah.
I mean, it's colder then. It's, as it is now, generally, if we have played on the 29th of August, chances are we're going to play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon is the way it was looking from what I heard. And, lately it's been 95 degrees with a heat index of 102. So hopefully if they did that, they would push the season back to an October, maybe late September, early October start, play your full season. Then you're done by, have your bowls at the end of January, and away you go.
And that would be for most teams, well, not for most teams, not counting bowls or playoffs. If you had 8 games for 20 for the spring, and then a 12-game schedule, that would be 20 games minimum that everybody would play.
Wow,
it's a lot of football. That's a lot of wear and tear on bodies at a high level that, again, you're talking 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old guys. You're not talking about a 30-year-old professional who's been training, 3/4 of his adult life to play. So,
guys, a moment ago, Kyle was talking about what Campbell's doing, having the option of playing 4 games if they so choose. They have 2 right now, and we obviously talked about the September 26th date up at App State. 2 weeks prior to that, they traveled down to Statesboro to play Georgia Southern. So that, I know earlier you and I, Kyle, were talking about that, wondering who the second game is against, and it's against App State's rival and conference mate, Georgia Southern.
Well, let's get Campbell to play East Carolina, and then that'll give them one more game, and it'll give us another home game and replace Norfolk State. And it seems like a pretty easy solution to me. And if you can have fans, that's an easy trip for the folks down in the Bowies Creek, Lillington area to make it up to Greenville.
Yeah, it's a 2 hour and 10-minute drive.
2 hours.
Literally, if you want to protect yourself and protect your team, you put them on a bus. If it's a 3 o'clock game, you put them on a bus at 8 o'clock in the morning. You drive into Greenville. You get into a hotel for a couple hours. You suit up. You go there.
Yep.
You play the game. You go home. It's the perfect scenario. And if the game were to cancel, if what they're doing, I like the idea that the conference has said, okay, we're canceling our conference season, but you can go ahead and practice and play 4 games.
Yep.
So that's a glorified, amped up spring football in the fall.
Yeah.
You're getting the best. You're still getting better. You're still getting the best of both worlds, but you're allowing these guys that have worked all year to still play football and still stay together and be safe.
And think about if you're an FCS team like a Campbell or any other of the Big South or SoCon teams, you're going to get 4 shots at FBS opponents, which is something you never get. Basically, you're going to be mercenaries trying to pull off an upset. Think about how much fun that is. That's your only goal, is to pull off an upset with those 4 games. That would be a blast as a football player, I would think.
And you've got some folks over here at East Carolina that have strong Campbell ties. Maybe that happens. Who knows?
That'd be great. In fact, Morgan, I know that you being the announcer of basketball and football, we had a question from Johnny Gardner. If we can change gears a little bit. He says, changing gears a little bit, what is Morgan's take on what Dooley and staff are doing?
I think Coach Dooley and his staff are doing remarkable things with the basketball program. I think they're on the verge of turning that around. Obviously, you got Jaden Gardner in here. You got last year, Coach Dooley brings in 11 players. We had lunch probably a month and a half ago, and he told me, we were talking about it. He says, yeah, if I had a lot of hair before that. I said, no, you didn't. He said, yeah, half of what I had fell out. Just trying to get everything in with the academic index that they've got to follow. When players leave, they lose points and, all that kind of thing. They did a great job keeping everything together. And I think that the kids they brought in this year, Farrakhan, you got Fifi coming in, among others. You've got a young man, I think his name's Kasagane. He's transferred from Navy. He's got to sit out this year. But they've got some talent over there. They've got more talent over there than we've had. This would be my 30th year. Started 30 years ago doing basketball for East Carolina, and the 16th year for football. So I've seen some good basketball, but I've seen a whole lot of not so good basketball.
That's a great way to put it.
I love what Coach Dooley's doing. I've known Joe since he was here before on Eddie Payne's staff, and we've become good friends over the years. And we'll talk to him many times when he's on the road recruiting in Kansas and some other places, and he just does a great job. And I think now the word's getting out. East Carolina is really on the rise, and it would not shock me to see him have one of these recruiting classes coming up with 3 or 4 guys coming in that people are going to go, wow, he's really doing a heck of a job there.
And Morgan, one of the things that I've been talking about being a basketball fan is that we have a good shot being a big boy league with the American. We're talking about football, but the American is also in basketball, I think, a power league. Well, it's not a power league because obviously it's basketball, but it's a big time league. And you look at if we could just make it to go from where the bottom of the pack to maybe the middle of the pack in the next year or two, I think that would be a huge improvement and gives us a chance to go postseason play, maybe the NIT, or maybe at some point a miracle season where you go into the NCAA.
Yeah, again, with you look at Joe's first year back, there were 4 or 5 games that went right down to the wire. And and I think we shot like something like 6% from the field.
Yeah.
I mean, defensively, he's a tremendous defensive coach. His staff does a great job. Coach Rock and Coach Chill, when he was here, did a great job of teaching the players. And now you've got Coach George Easy Wright over there, Coach Rock still there, and Coach Antoine's coming over. Joe told me about that earlier this year when he and I were talking, and that he was really excited about him coming in. Coached at Cincinnati for many years, coached at Virginia Tech last year. I mean, he's not bringing in guys that don't know how to coach and don't know how to recruit. And he would get on Coach Rock sometimes when Rock would say, I got to go. He said, no, you got to be there for the game. He says, I want to recruit.
Yeah.
I mean, they love it. They live it. They breathe it. Coach Dooley does it. And when you have somebody like that passion shows and players see that, they feed off that.
You got a kid like Jaden Gardner, by the way, Morgan. I was really upset that he didn't get Player of the Year. What were your thoughts on that for the American? I really thought he deserved that.
If East Carolina would have had a better season team-wise and a few more wins, he probably would have gotten it or had been very, very close to getting it. The fact that he didn't, every coach in the league knew he was the best player in the league. Every coach in the league, they were putting their best guys on him night in and night out, and he still averaged 20 and 10 or whatever it was. So he's gotten better. I think his game's going to get better, and it wouldn't surprise me once he's done here at East Carolina, he gets a shot at the next level.
Morgan, you mentioned earlier about it being your 16th year of calling East Carolina football, which is hard to believe. The first year was 2004. What are some of your favorite memories of the last 16 years of calling East Carolina football? Favorite besides the obvious, what I would imagine be the UNC game where Holton debuted. What are some of your favorite memories of the last 16 years? And then a question that I was trying to figure out last night when we were talking about having you on, who was the voice of Dowdy Ficklen the 2 years between John C. Moore and yourself?
I couldn't tell you, to be real honest with you, because I'm not 100% sure. I know that the last year of John Thompson, they asked me to come in and fill in, I think 1 or 2 games, and started doing it then. And my favorite memories, I think you'd have to go back and look at the Houston game for the conference championship when Skip Holtz was here. That would be one of them. The wins against Carolina, the big win against NC State when Damon Magazoo intercepted the ball. Got at the end of the ball game when I think Russell Wilson was the quarterback then. And there's been a lot of great memories, and a lot of great players that have come through here. And it's hard to believe that you look at some of these guys and now they're. I saw where Dakota Marshall just had a baby the other day, and these guys, Marcus Crandall's come through, and Steve Logan, when I was just doing basketball, but got to know these guys and would cover it. As Dave said, we would do the pregame show, so we would cover these things. And there's just been so many great players, so many great memories in Dowdy Ficklen Stadium. And one of the big things, and people don't realize what kind of impact the fans have, because when you're down on the field and you guys get down there sometimes. And you hear the noise that comes out of there. Now, since they put the bowl in the boneyard, it's so much louder. Now that they've got the tower up, it just keeps the sound in. I mean, last year it took us 2 games to adjust the PA right when they had it last year, because the sound used to go up over the FEMA trailer in the sky and disappear, But now it doesn't do that. It just stays in that. And if the fans, we get to the point this year where the fans are allowed to come in, whether it's 50%, 100%, whatever the case may be. And this program turns around and normal gets back to normal, whatever that may be for next season. Fans need to buy their season tickets, because if you put 45, 50,000 people in that place, it is as loud as any stadium in the country. And there's no more passionate fan than a Pirate fan.
No question about it. I think one of the memories for me, one of the special memories for me, was when Holton scored that touchdown against Carolina, and to see that video of you calling it was one of the. I've known you for a long time. That was a really cool moment.
Yeah, it was. Billy Weaver did that, and I saw him in the background. I didn't know what he was doing. I was just trying to call the game, and they put him in, and he ran it in, and it was rough said. There was eyeball sweat, but I took my glasses off, put them back on because I had to start reading again. And doing the break coming out of that touchdown. So, but yeah, that's something that I'll never forget.
And what's a great thing about it is Holton staying home. I've known you for a long time, being in Greenville. He said he grew up being a Pirate. He wanted to be a Pirate. I know it has to be special for the fact that where the program was when he first came here to where I think it'll be by the time he graduates, it's going to be a night and day difference, don't you think?
I do, and that's what he wanted to do, and that's what CJ's wanted to do. That's what Jeremy Lewis has wanted to do. These guys could have gone anywhere in the ACC in the country and played football. They wanted to be one of the ones and a group of guys that came in. It wasn't easy. It's not been pretty at times, but these guys wanted to come in and change and bring back what Pirate football is, and I think we're on the cusp of doing that right now. This coaching staff and these players, they're working so hard. They're on the edge of tipping that thing over and running through that door and saying, here we are.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. In fact, we were talking about before with that very fact of the days. Did you have, going back to the days of the Budweiser game day countdown in the 90s, were there special memories there of games, or certainly when you're covering it from being a member of the media with Brian Bailey? I know we talk a lot about the 1996 season. That's when I first met you. Mm-hmm. That was one of my favorite seasons, and the thing that we talk about a lot, but the fact we didn't make a bowl that year at 8-3 was
disrespectful. It was disrespectful as far as to the program, to the school, that we didn't make a bowl that year. There's been a lot of good memories. I remember we played Stanford in the Liberty Bowl. And we're down there, and I remember Logan said it could be sleeting sideways, and, when we get to Memphis that year. Well, it was sleeting sideways before the game started. And one of my favorite memories was the Cardinal Tree for Stanford, which is the ultra-liberal institution. If you went to Stanford, I'm sorry, congratulations. I'll never go there, never had my kid go there, nothing. But they had their band has a big tree is their mascot.
The Tree of Knowledge.
Yeah, the Tree of Knowledge got his butt waxed by one of the players because he ran into him, and one of our guys just shoved him backwards. Because he didn't know who he was. He was running on the field, and he was running up to him. And that the tree got chopped down. I was going yeah, I like that. Oh boy! But those were some fun times.
Now, Morgan, you bring up that Stanford band. Do you remember the halftime show where they had the lost 51st state saying that we can thank Eastern North Carolina or East Carolina, I guess.
They actually said Eastern North Carolina because they did their homework and said that, knew that it was East Carolina. And they did they had a big thing where they came out and it was like smoking a cigarette from the tobacco. And, I got to hand it to them. They're creative, but, it was a good game.
Yeah,
no doubt. So the conference, we're talking about both conference championships with Skip Holtz, and the reason I brought that up, I really believe that Coach Houston, I've said this a lot during Holton's time, but certainly beyond Holton, I really believe that you'll see conference championships again under Mike Houston.
I do too, and I'm going to go. I'm going to say we're going to be fighting for one. If we don't do it this year, which there's a lot of things have to happen but next year we will be one of the teams favored for that championship. Write it down. You heard it here.
No doubt. So what do you have going on right now? How have you been making it out with I know you have a lot of being a DJ and you do a lot of stuff on the side. How hard has it been this year? I want to ask you as a friend with COVID-19 personally.
Had the busiest year scheduled for parties and weddings I've had in a long time. It was a really good year shaping up. And just about all of them, but I think 2 canceled between July or April and July. So, yeah.
Wow. Tough times, but the good news is still, are they waiting to next year to get married where 21 is going to be where it's going to be insane for you?
I hope so. So give me a call. DJ Captain Morgan. Find me on Facebook.
One of the things I was going to bring up, Dave, when you were talking about COVID and just the impact it's had on people, I wanted to bring up Mac Hodges, better known as Bear, diehard Pirate fan and the mayor of Washington. We were going to have T-Cop on, of course, one of Little Washington's greats, but T-Cop will join us tomorrow because he had something come up tonight. He wasn't in the best of service areas, so he apologized, but he'll be joining us tomorrow, and he's going to share his thoughts on Bear.
Bear was a good friend of mine, and prayers and condolences going out to his family. Did so much for the town of Washington, the city of Washington, and Beaufort County. Of course, big representative of the Pirate Club over the years, graduate of East Carolina, and a great loss to many. And again, prayers for his family.
No doubt about it. I know that Bubba was talking about being in the jungle with him, and definitely with at East Carolina. So it's always tough when you lose a Pirate, but certainly one that had a big impact on Eastern North Carolina. Washington is right down, for those that don't know, right? Most people probably watching this podcast would know it's really close to Greenville. But for those watching nationally, internationally, it's very close to Greenville, no doubt. Morgan, how can people, you were talking about your Facebook page and all that, how can people, will give you a chance to plug obviously DJ business, and I know that next year is going to be great for you, my friend.
Appreciate it. You can go on Facebook and check me out at DJ Captain Morgan, and if you say you heard it on here, I'm going to charge you extra. So
all right.
That's a great deal.
Before you go, Morgan, I wanted to ask you from earlier wrestling talk, what do you think about Jeff Charles getting into the wrestling promoting business out in Michigan during the summer?
Great for him. He's a huge wrestling fan. It's, he's got the time now that he's officially retired. He's just going to be doing the broadcast. And I heard his conversation with Clip the other day on Pirate Radio, and talking about I think it's the UWF, maybe. I might be wrong. They're going to start promoting. They're going to start promoting shows next year. And hey, I think that's awesome. Good for him. It's a lifelong dream of his, and I think it'd be awesome. If I'm up that way, we'll go to a show.
The way I found out, the funny story is that the way I found out that Voice was a fan of wrestling, we bumped into each other literally at the Norfolk Scope, where we're there at an episode of Nitro, and he didn't know I was a wrestling fan, and I'd been knowing him a couple years at the time, and we got talking about wrestling, but I had no idea that Jeff Charles was a wrestling fan. So that's I'm really happy. I didn't know about that. That's really cool that he's doing that, and he has a lot of connections, obviously, with different wrestling folks, and great from the booth over the years. A lot of great wrestling talent has come on and been guests on the show. Yeah,
Jeff does a great job, and can't wait to hear his call on September the 12th.
Morgan, appreciate your time. I know. Did you have something, Bubba?
Not from Morgan necessarily, but just generally speaking about wrestling. You're talking about who Jeff Charles has had on with Ivan Koloff, and he had married Pirate Al. I just thought about that because Pirate Al chiming in so much tonight.
Pirate Al and Ivan Koloff were married. All right, we'll start that rumor.
Yeah, I think they got married out at Ironwood. They got married, and great wrestler, and back in the day, one of the old school villains of all time. Should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, but he's not, because Vince McMahon, he was one of the members of the lawsuit that was suing Vince McMahon for damages and for health damages and health, loss in health. But he needs to be in the Hall of Fame if he can.
First, and a fun fact: Ivan Koloff, when the belt changed from the WWF to WWF champion, Ivan was the first guy to hold it as the WWF championship.
That's true. I'd forgotten that. The Russian Bear. Well, Morgan, thanks, man. Appreciate you coming on tonight. It's been always a lot of fun with you, and looking forward to hearing your voice September 12th. I'm going to say, I'll go out on a limb there, September 12th, and hopefully we have some fans and get a W there. It'll be awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for having me, and go Pirates.
Enjoyed it there. Morgan Ahlers, appreciate him very much. A good friend for a long, long time. One of the best, one of the greats, a great Pirate. We appreciate him so much for coming on tonight. And guys, I know we have a few minutes here. We can talk about maybe some roundtable stuff. And definitely one of the things that I'm interested in, something I brought up and that you brought up again, Kyle, was the very fact of having 76 schools out of 84. And the very fact that I think we've got a good shot out of making a bowl this year.
76 schools out of 84.
I mean, 84 potential teams in a bowl. Let me be specific.
Okay.
There's a potential of 84 that can make a bowl. 76 are still playing.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but there's 76 schools still playing FBS football.
He's talking about there being 42 bowls, so 84 teams.
Okay, gotcha. All right, yeah, there's 76.
We have a shot to make a bowl. Is what I'm saying.
Yes. Okay, got it now because I was going with 130 FBS schools.
No, I understand. I realize when that's why I said to be clear.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it certainly increases your chances if you're playing of making a bowl game. Depending on how many bowls there are, if they're going to play a full bowl slate, if they scale down the bowls because of 54 teams not playing, then I guess everything equals out. But if we play a full 42 game bowl slate, then it definitely increases your chance. You can't play. You can't. There's no way. That's too many. You got to have 80, like you just said. You got to have 84 teams, and there's 76 teams playing. There's no way you could play a full bowl slate.
But I know some of them won't have, and some of them wouldn't have. They have terrible records, so that would knock them out anyway. So then you'd have to go maybe what high school football.
I don't know what you're going to do.
Three or four wins, baby. We're there.
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do the bowl season. Now that you really think about that, that's a great question. How many bowls will there be? Will there be a bowl season? Will we just have the playoff?
Yeah.
One thing I wondered, maybe do you let teams host another home game if they win at least 6? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the hell you do the bowl season because, like I said, you said it without saying it. There's more bowl slots than there are teams playing. Yeah,
and that's the thing if these individual schools start dropping, like New Mexico, you told me today, which I didn't know, I didn't hear, but New Mexico State dropped today because I knew it was 77. When you said that, I was like, oh, it's 76 now. So that's 8 less than we need, obviously, to fill those slots. But also the fact that if you have another thing that you and I talk about is the very fact that we had Big Ten and Pac-12 tie-ins, that maybe we could go to some of those bowls. I don't know.
MAC and Mountain West also. I mean, you got. Like I say, there's no way you're going to play all the bowls. So it'll be interesting to see. Will the bowls with Mountain West and MAC and Pac-12 and Big Ten tie-ins decide to move to the spring? This is a conversation that I hadn't even heard really discussed about how that would be handled. I guess the question is, let's get the season played, but you need a goal, and of course your goal is always to win the game you're playing, but you'd like there to be a goal at the end of the season. So how many bowls will be played?
Let's put up this comment I have here from, it's a drinking game tonight. We said his name a lot, Pirate Al. It's not letting me. Can we put that up?
There we go.
There we go. ECU has a fantastic opportunity for national TV exposure in football. Just hope we play the whole season. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's something else to think about with the Big 10 and the Pac-12 not playing. It makes the American the 4th highest tier conference, or your number 4 premier league out there. So the conference as a whole will get a ton of coverage this year if we do play.
And guys, how about the fact, I know Johnny brings up a great point too, we'll get to his comment in a second, but how about the fact that, you don't think your commissioner is important for the league? How about Mike Oresco having the ties he has with ESPN and CBS? We're going to get I believe if we can find a way to play this season, being the American, we're going to have some great time slots that we normally might not have, that we're kind of like fighting to get, like Memphis and UCF, or the big time game like last year on ABC. Maybe all of a sudden we get some more of those games, and that creates more buzz.
It's just about guaranteed with the SEC and ACC having their own networks. They got to put something in primetime on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, and ABC. So you can just about guarantee the American's going to have a primetime game on ESPN2 or ESPNU every week this year.
That would be awesome. I know, Bubba, do you want to put Johnny Gardner's comment up? He says, bowls are based on tourism, even though lots don't draw well under normal time, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean,
so that's the fact is, and that's another thing, is that traveling, like how many people would feel comfortable, and I'm not picking on them because I really want to go to the bowl, but the Myrtle Beach Bowl, how many people would, if you had the bowls right now, how many people would go to the Myrtle Beach Bowl? I guess
a lot of people feel comfortable going to Myrtle Beach, evidently. That's why it's such a COVID hotspot.
Yeah, no question about it. So, yeah,
I mean, you look at something like the Myrtle Beach Bowl. This is the first year for it. I mean, a lot of these bowls are thankfully owned by ESPN now, which I looked at as a negative before, but now with this happening, I think it's a positive because you don't have to worry about them going out of business. You know, who knows, man? That's a whole nother scenario that's probably going to work out as the season's going on.
Kyle and Bubba, I have a question for you guys. Okay. Why can't we host our own? Why can't we have the barbecue bowl? We're trying to have
Well, that's what I was saying. They may just, who knows? You may just say 14 playoff, and then if you win 6, you get to host another home game.
I'd be in favor of that. If better than not have it'd be better than not having a bowl at all, or being able beyond that.
Sure.
They would give us some extra practices and then like that, and then have the game. That would be better than it's basically making lemonade, right? I mean, this whole year's been nothing but a lemon.
The 2020 is super, super crappy. I think everybody can agree with that. I think, unless something bad happens between now and the end of the year and people aren't looking forward to 21 as much as they were, I would be willing to bet you New Year's Eve there will be more people screaming Happy New Year this year than ever before.
Amen, brother, to that. There's no question. And maybe by then we can have New Year's Eve parties. That's nuts. No doubt. There's guys, I tell you what, I'm very excited about certainly the recruiting of East Carolina. I know our good friend Stephen Igo from Hoist the Colors. He's actually he always does an excellent job, but with the recruiting, I'm just like day after day after day, I'm so excited about thinking about where this program is going. I mean, you're looking at the level of quality of players, the guys that are committing early. I mean, one of the things like when you see in baseball with Cliff Godwin and Jeff Palumbo, those guys, they have like guys committing way out. They're way ahead of the game because they've been a top 25 program for a long, long time. And you see that in the distance now for football with Mike Houston. They already have tremendous connections, and they're building. One of the things I forgot to say to Morgan was, look at each position now, the depth that we talked about depth, but I was going to mention more about if you go to each individual room, there's more there than it's ever been.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of depth, guys, I don't know if you touched on any of the news notes of the day. Avery Jones is eligible, offensive line transfer from North Carolina. So that's big for us. He had to get cleared. The NCAA has said no NCAA championships for fall sports. They made that decision today after saying they were going to leave it up to each individual sport. They went ahead and said no fall championships. So that means that does not affect FBS football.
FCS, though, right?
Yes, it does affect FCS. But I think they were already on that path anyway. But no FBS, that does not affect FBS football, but it makes some decisions like if you are the American or the AC, any of the conferences still playing, and some of the conferences that don't sponsor FBS football that we're still playing. And, now they have to decide, do they want to have their sports and just play for a conference title like volleyball, for example? Does volleyball just now want to compete for an American Athletic Conference championship? They're going to cancel the season.
Guys, I want to mention something. I know, Bubba, you want to talk about one of my favorite golfer, HV3, and we will second, but I want to bring something else up to get y'all's opinion. I've been dying to ask all day about this, and I waited until tonight on the podcast to ask you. I'm hearing some folks, including Desmond Howard today, that think that Nebraska should be kicked out of the Big Ten. I want to get you guys' thought, because my feeling is that Kyle and I were talking about this pre-show meeting a couple hours ago, that the very fact that they can easily go to pick the Big 12. They can go. They can go to the Big 12. Why would you say like, okay, bye? I mean, the Big 12 is still a great conference. Go home.
The Big Ten commissioner said it on the Big Ten Network today that if Nebraska plays the season, that they will be asked to leave the Big Ten.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
If I'm Nebraska, they don't have to ask me to leave, baby. I'm gone. With that kind of attitude, I'm on the phone with the Big 12, and I'm deuces. I mean, I'm gone. I'm going back to the Big 12, which is where they belong anyway.
What do you think, Bubba? Do you think they should leave? Would you leave? I mean, to me, this is a way I think going back, the commissioner is tone deaf, and I know he's a newbie, but he showed to me handling this situation. Yes, he didn't create COVID, but the way he's handled this particular situation, I think he's a novice, and it shows that he's a brand new commissioner. I wasn't really happy with the way that he handled that very thing, because how could you not? I mean, how could you not expect that players and coaches and athletic directors, they're so casual about it? That's what drives me nuts, that people, you want to play football. I mean, it's not like you said, oh, yeah, we're not going to have a football.
Well, it goes to show me that how little faith Nebraska has that they're going to play this spring. Because if they thought they were going to play this spring, they wouldn't be pursuing it. Bubba, what are your thoughts, man? If you're Nebraska, would you say deuces? I'm going back to the Big 12 or
East Carolina?
Yeah, I really don't know enough to be able to really shed an opinion or give an opinion there.
Well, don't let that stop. It doesn't stop anybody else.
Yeah, but one guy who isn't holding back an opinion is your buddy James down in Mississippi, Hattiesburg. James chimes in saying Nebraska going back to the Big 12 will be the best thing that's ever happened to the Cornhuskers for sure. And he said Nebraska needs to recruit Texas. Yeah, when I think of Nebraska, I think back to those the Big 8, and then
Tom Osborne.
Big 12 days, of course, with Tom Osborne, but the games that they had with the likes of Texas and Colorado, and they had some really good games with the Buffaloes and
Oklahoma.
Even though it makes sense in some ways for them to be in the Big Ten, and it's just I've never gotten used to it, even though they've been there for several years now.
Yeah, it does make some geographical sense, but it's still in their footprint. History-wise, obviously, the Big 12, and it's still in their geographical footprint, too, with Kansas State, Iowa State. So, I mean, that's where they belong, man. To me, the only fit for Nebraska in the Big Ten was geographically.
And Johnny said, didn't Nebraska come out today and say they weren't going to move forward and
I'm not sure
try to be independent? And yes, Johnny, we saw that earlier as well.
Yeah,
they're not gonna move forward. Well, you know what? That's fine. I'd still go back to the Big 12 just because the Big 10 commissioner wanted to talk all that trash. See you.
Yeah, the thing you have to understand is the commissioner, you work for those college presidents and chancellors. You work for those schools. They do not work for you. And let me just say, the reason why you have that big contract, TV contract, is you have a lot of big schools, and Nebraska is a really big school when it comes to college football. They have the history. You've got Scott Frost. He's a local kid, not local kid, but alum. He's going to turn that program around. And I'm telling you, Barry Albert, I mean, you got those guys. I mean, it's just the very fact that I know I just said it wrong. I'm sorry about that, but the AD slipped my mind. I said the wrong name. But the very fact that you have got people that are that passionate about football in that state, in the Cornhusker state, that's a brand. I'm sorry, that's a brand name. And for that much disrespect, I was really shocked about that. And normally I wouldn't say anything about a commissioner, but I was really, you know what, guys, I was really proud of the fact that making me love Mike Oresco even more, because he would never, ever, ever do that to a conference.
No, I don't think so. I think, if you make the decision for the conference not to play, and then a school wants to go and play on their own, I don't see how it affects anybody else in the conference. Let them do what they want to do.
You cancel the season. You cancel the season, which was not in their control. It's not like they voluntarily said, hey, guys, we're not going to play college football this year.
They voted against it.
What's that? Their
president voted against it.
Right. So that's my thing, is the very fact that there's some teams in there, the Iowas of the world. I know Ohio State. There's like 3 or 4 teams, guys, right now. And that was another question I had before we wrap it up. And I know you want to talk about HV3, Bubba, having a big day, is the very fact of, do you think, and obviously this is like a talking head topic, do you think that something like this could create another conference realignment earlier than expected?
Possibly. I mean, if Nebraska said they're not going to pursue it now, maybe not. You still think there are probably some hurt feelings. Chances are money talks. Big Ten makes a lot of money. Big 12 makes a lot of money too, but chances are they're going to, kiss and make up. I think here's what I do think. If there's no fall sports and you can't turn around and play football in the spring, which I do think would happen if we don't play in the fall, I think there'd be some realignment at the group of 5 level, because I think you're going to see some teams, and I think you will anyway, suffering so much financially. I think the Sun Belt and Conference USA, for example, already doesn't make any sense as they are. I think those 2 leagues are going to eventually combine to form 2 new leagues. You can make 2 geographically sound leagues by splitting those leagues up. I mean, they make no sense as they are. At one point, Conference USA was significantly better than the Sun Belt. That's not the case anymore. So there's no real advantage to being in Conference USA over the Sun Belt. So might as well break the 2 leagues up and reform 2 geographically sound leagues. They would save a lot of money that way.
And we need to have James on the show. He's one of my favorites. And but I know that he has another comment, Bubba, if you can put that up, about Nebraska. Nebraska goes back to the Big 12 North. UCF goes to the Big 12 South.
Okay, Southern Miss takes UCF spot in the American. James,
that would be awesome. I wish. Bubba, I know that you're tight on time, but you want to talk about I know you were so excited, which I was really busy at work today, but you brought up the very point of HV3, which I was really excited to hear about.
Yeah, HV3 playing here in Greensboro at the Wyndham at the Sedgefield Country Club. Tied a career best 62.
Wow.
8 birdies and 10 pars. And so he is in a 3-way tie for first after one day in Greensboro. And over the last 2 months or so, I mean, HV3 has put himself in excellent position on going into the weekend on several occasions. Hopefully this will be the time he gets over the hump and gets that first career victory. Something else, and Kyle mentioned Avery Jones, North Carolina transfer offensive lineman, with Avery Jones getting the waiver to go ahead and play this year. And that's what Avery lost my train of thought. But Avery and
how many years he's got left?
Say it again.
Are you going to say about how many years of eligibility?
I think 3. But no, what I was going to say is definitely go back and check out the practice report if you haven't already done so, right here on Facebook and YouTube. And then I was also going to mention Sean Armstrong. He's pitching for the Orioles, and Sean he had an excellent outing last night and picked up the win. He's 2-0 now on the season, and he's appeared, I think, in 7 or 8 ball games now, and really pitching well for Baltimore. But
all right, good to hear that Sean is doing well. Always good to hear Pirates doing well in the pros with both the PGA and the MLB.
That's right. And by the way, guys, I know that I want to give a shout out to Cliff Godwin. They picked up another great recruit, a pitcher, I know, and just for the class of 23, just awesome stuff there. Kyle, these young players are already making commitment to the Pirates. My understanding, he's the best infielder, or second best, the best infielder or second best infielder in North Carolina. So his name escapes me right now, so I'll have to do that and look at it again. But obviously, a very big pickup for Cliff Godwin and staff. And anytime we can give a shout out to one of our favorite Pirates, we'll do it.
Yeah, and baseball always strong. Looking forward to that in the spring. We can feel pretty confident we're going to have baseball next spring.
No doubt about it. It might be every single sport playing at the same time, but it'll be almost like the Olympics, but we'll definitely handle it. All right, for our greats, the voice, the play-by-play voice of the basketball team and football team for East Carolina, Morgan Ahlers. Thank you very much. Thanks to Bubba. Kyle, appreciate you, buddy, as always. Looking forward to maybe we can hang out sometime and play some video games. Maybe we can have a video game episode of the Sports Injector.
Every time I go to Williamston, you're not in town. I think you're trying to avoid me.
No, I'm not. We need to make sure we got our calendar straight. All right, guys, appreciate y'all so much. As always, keep in mind about 50 Pirates in 50 days. We'll continue that over the next few days. They're everywhere on Facebook, obviously archived on our YouTube channel, and you can hear the podcast itself of our shows and 50 Pirates in 50 days this year on SoundCloud and Anchor.
And this is the place to get your practice report.
That's exactly right. Appreciate that, Kyle. And you can hear that everywhere and listen to that, and obviously all over our social media. All right, guys. Hope you'll have a great night. And good night, everybody. And go Pirates.